OneGoal is very grateful to work with some incredible individuals, my colleagues. So in a minute, I'm going to ask to join the chat. It'll be Kate Sweetman, who is our VP of Tech and Data, our tech guru at OneGoal, and Patrice Noland, who is our Senior Director of Post-Secondary Success for OneGoal. Patrice is out in the Bay Area, working with students out there. And then we have Jasnaya Aguirre, who is a OneGoal alum from Hubbard High School, enrolled at Daly Community College here in Chicago. So I'm personally very excited to have the opportunity to learn from these brilliant folks. And they've generously agreed to share their time, knowledge, and experience regarding how educators can integrate AI to strengthen post-secondary advising. Now, before we jump into the discussion, I want to get started with a quick overview of OneGoal. For those of you that know us already, sorry, this is not going to be new information. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, maybe you've never heard of OneGoal before. What is OneGoal? This is your chance to hear a bit more about that. So our vision is that every student will have an equitable opportunity to achieve their greatest post-secondary aspirations. So we know that all students have an incredible amount of potential, and the disparity in post-secondary outcomes doesn't reflect a lack of ambition or potential. What it reflects is an opportunity gap, and that they face in and out of school. So on average, and this is always shocking to me, students get less than one class period worth of advising during high school. The numbers, debated, but it's roughly 38 minutes while they're in high school. So imagine if every student in your school were affirmed, engaged, and supported in reaching their greatest post-secondary aspirations. So OneGoal's mission is to lead the movement to transform post-secondary advising so students can realize those ambitions. So we work with communities across the country, primarily through two types of partnerships. One of the ways we do that is through a daily class for high school juniors and seniors, which comes with an extra year of support during that first year, that really critical first year of their transition into post-secondary. So just like math, English, science, PE, band, that those are taught during the school day. We believe that post-secondary planning must be taught with equal attention, and the teachers and school staff can be supported to effectively deliver that knowledge. So secondly, OneGoal also provides expert coaching and a community of learning for high school and district leaders. So we help them build and strengthen the systems and structures that will lead to increased post-secondary outcomes and close those equity gaps that I mentioned for their students. So those two things, the OneGoal, which is our direct impact, and the OneGoal Leadership Network. So to date, we've reached over 150,000 students. Nothing to shake a stick at in 10 states across the country. We're really proud of the reach we've been able to have since we were founded in 06, 07. And our work continues. Our work has a really strong impact on students. The numbers don't lie. So 80% of OneGoal high school graduates enroll in a post-secondary institution, which is compared to 51% of their peers from similar backgrounds. So that's a little bit about us. To learn more, you can go to onegoal.org, which we will share in the chat. I see that Sydney is hard at work with that. Thank you, Sydney. So to learn more, please reach out, and you can find out information on the website. All right, enough of that. Introduce you to Kate Sweetman, OneGoal's VP of Tech and Data. So she leads our work in data, product, IT, and innovation. Kate, I know for a fact, believes deeply in using tech to empower educators and students to reach new heights. Kate, please tell us a bit more about why we are talking about AI and why I can't get away from it. It's just everywhere I turn.
Oh man, I can't get away from it either, Stephen. It's become a lot of what I talk about every day at work. And so let's ground ourselves for today on why this conversation matters, especially to our young people. And so we are going to talk about AI because it's already a part of how young people explore their futures. According to one of our new favorite studies at OneGoal, the Broken Marketplace study by Schultz Family Foundation, 20% of young adults are already using AI tools to explore their education and career ideas. And on top of that, half our kids tell us that they are using social media primarily to get advice about what to do after high school. And so I would say that tells me something pretty important, which is that students are very much turning to digital tools. They're turning to ChatGPT, they're turning to TikTok. They are looking to make big decisions in a very immediate way. And so I have a quote that I think really brings this to life. And so here we have a participant in that study who had said, 20-year-old participant, my main source for advice on my future would be TikTok. It's like the new Google. And so for those of us who are a little older than that, that might be a tiny bit scary. But honestly, I think what stands out to me when I hear this, I hear that students want speed, they want clarity, they want accessibility, they want it to be quick, they want it to be visual, they want it to be digestible. They don't want to have to wait for help. And so for educators, I think this presents us with a challenge and an opportunity because we need to meet students where they're at. And we also need to make sure that we are guiding them toward credible, reflective, solid decision-making experiences. And so the way we do this at One Goal, to answer, Stephen, what you said you were so curious about, is we do it in a process called hybrid advising. And so when we talk about hybrid advising, it's a term that the field is using, and so we're excited to use it as well. And we mean combining the best of both worlds, which is the human connection and the AI support. And so we very much say it's human first and it's AI enabled. And our goal at One Goal is never to replace advisors with technology, but we really want to make sure we're using AI to enhance and prepare students for richer and more meaningful conversation with their human advisors. If you're having a short amount of time to talk to someone, you want to make sure it's really valuable. We're going to increase the quantity that students get about advising, but also increase that quality. And so these automated tools can help students gather information and also reflect ahead of time so they can get into that session with a lot more information. And so before we go deeper into how One Goal is doing it at One Goal, I actually want to ask the chat to get a little bit more active and let us know, are your students, for those of you who are educators who work in schools, are they currently receiving intentional hybrid advising support where it is AI enabled and human first? And so you can say, not yet, a little, a lot. I'm an expert. If you're an expert, we can invite you to be on this panel. But please share what you're thinking in terms of how your students are experiencing advising right now. All right. I see some not yets, which makes sense that you might be joining us to learn a little bit more about how you could get started. Ooh, and a lot. Yeah. Students are leading the are figuring out how they incorporate AI into their regular practice. We can talk about that in a bit. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing at One Goal and then with some real specifics. So at One Goal, we really want to make sure that we can just bring you under the hood and show you a few screenshots. I'm going to lead with some screenshots on the automated tools we are actually using every day in our program right now to support our students and to support our advisors. And some of these you can start using too. So let's go to our first tool. In junior year, we direct students to build a list of high quality post-secondary options. This is, I think, a really common junior experience across the country. And so we support students in building this list with a tool that One Goal built ourselves. We call it One Goal Studio since it helps students design their future. And so while this tool broadly supports our advising work, I've got a screenshot here highlighting a part of the tool that gives students automated personalized advice on their list of post-secondary options. And so this personalized advice helps them reflect before they have that advising session with their real life advisor, which can lead to a much higher quality conversation about their list. Then we get to senior year. And at that point, we direct students to Decide Ed, a tool that provides automated guidance on financial aid award letters. And so for those of you who are familiar with financial aid award letters, you might know that there's no standard template. They can be really difficult for students to interpret. They're not sure, is this a scholarship? Is this a loan? Does this actually cover all of my costs for attending this institution? And so with Decide Ed, which you can go to at decideed.org right now, your students could sign up if they want to, They can snap a picture of that letter and get really clear insights into the costs and affordability of that institution, compare them with other institutions, and have that quality information before they make really one of the most consequential decisions of their lives. And so that's a great tool that we promote for sure. But then we get to that next year. And so the students who are in their first year after high school, we have an advising chatbot that offers quick on-demand answers and reminders to help students stay on track through their key milestones. They're no longer in school. We don't get to stop them in the hallway and say, hey, did you remember to do this? We've got to find an easier way to get in touch with students. And we know that students want that way to just be in their pocket on their phone. And so this also, having a chatbot, allows the human advisors to only be one text message away. Our students can text #human to get in touch and have a real life advising conversation whenever they need. And so these three examples that I'm highlighting here before we get to actually have a really good discussion about them, our goal is the same. We are using technology to extend the support between those in-person human advisor check-ins, but not to replace those check-ins that make advising so powerful. Also, we didn't add all of this technology at once. If you're hearing this and going, wow, that's a lot. I'm in the not yet camp and I'm not sure how I would add all of this. We actually engaged in a number of small tests and pilots, and then we used those results to guide us on where we should continue to expand our new tools. And so I want to share with you one example of our early results. And so this is an example about the chatbot specifically. So we piloted our hybrid advising chatbot in just our Texas region, which gave us the confidence that we should expand our hybrid advising practice more nationally. So as you can see here on this slide, we have this descriptive analysis where you can see that both the chatbot only and the human only approach had a positive relationship with students enrolling in their second year of post-secondary. But the combination, all the way on the right-hand side, of the human and the chatbot had an even stronger positive relationship. And so while we can't yet be sure if we can attribute everything to this chatbot, we are excited to see that the addition of a chatbot likely had a positive impact on our students. It enhanced our ability to support them, and it also has already changed the scalability of our advising support at One Goal. Our advisors can support more students more effectively now.
Now, during the session, we will explore how our panelists are bringing that to life in the communities that we serve at One Goal. And we will weave in those questions throughout the conversation. And Jasnaya is going to bring some real life experience with the One Goal chatbot, which I'm very excited to hear how that's been going for you. But let's start with a quick grounding question for Kate and Patrice. So for both of you, actually, Kate, why don't you start? What opportunities do you see for AI to strengthen post-secondary advising, and where are you most cautious?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. The opportunities that seem to come alive for us are around making sure that students have a breadth of access to information. And so, and our advisors as well. An advisor is not going to be able to tell every student every single thing about all possible pathways, right? When they're looking at careers, when they're looking at where they want to be. Maybe our advisor knows what it's like to go into the medical profession. Maybe they know what it's like to go into engineering, but they might not know it all. And so one of the big opportunities, I think, with AI is having advisors and students use AI together to explore. And then the caution that I have is the same. You know, information is not always accurate. Every time I regularly, as part of my role, will go to a AI language model and say, how do I fill out this year's FAFSA? And it's often wrong because the AI information is not always completely up to date. And so because of that, I would really encourage advisors and students to, like I said, use the chatbots together so you can have a real expert validating whether or not this chatbot is giving you excellent advice or whether you need to go a little bit deeper and double check some more sources.
Patrice, what about you? Where are you seeing opportunities for AI to strengthen what we're doing in terms of post-secondary advising?
Yeah, I think Kate really did a great job of highlighting the ways that there is just so much information out there, and the college and career landscape is changing every day. It's changed a lot over the years, and it continues to evolve. And so I think the need for really personalized, high quality advising is greater than ever. And we know that our advisors wear a ton of different hats. You know, they're the coach, the mentor, sometimes they're the educator, thought partner, confidant. And so I think that when used thoughtfully, when incorporated thoughtfully, that AI tools have the potential to cut down on some of the most time-consuming tasks. They provide a means to access, a ton of different information, and then allow the advisor to strengthen their ability to provide even more tailored advice to students, because they're able to continue to invest time and energy in building the relationships that are so crucial to persistence and so crucial to understanding how to cultivate more individualized support. I think to your second question around what do I feel most cautious about, I don't come from a tech background. And so I think there's a lot that I'm still cautious about. I have always worked in student support and advising. And I think there is still so much that we're learning about AI tools. I think that, there are very real concerns around environmental implications, around data privacy and bias. And so while we explore some of the really exciting opportunities for positive impact, I think it's really important to be scaffolded and kind of gradual in the way that we're integrating those new technologies, and that we are first and foremost keeping our students safe.
I have another question for you about just like misconceptions. Before I get to that, I do just want to answer Orlando's question in the chat around the enrollment versus graduation. So this is really critical for us at One Goal. It's not just about getting students in the door, it's about persistence and graduation too. So we had a study that came out from the University of Chicago's, I think it's their IEL, what's it called? The IEL lab. And it showed that 40% of One Goal fellows were more likely to graduate than their peers from similar backgrounds. And we know that nationally 1.5, what students at One Goal are 1.5 times more likely to graduate than their peers. As it relates to sort of the impact of this hybrid model and with AI, I don't think we're quite there yet. I wonder, Kate, if you had any insights around what we might be looking at tracking and how this could impact graduation.
Yeah. So we've been using our AI chatbot for about 2 years now. And so we typically track graduation rates over a span of 6 years after high school. And so it's too soon to tell how much impact the AI-powered chatbots are having. However, we do know that second-year enrollment is a critical early indicator of whether students are going to persist. Many students will drop out during that first year, right in between that first to second year transition, which is why One Goal offers such support throughout that first year after high school. And so the fact that we're seeing the chatbot help us get 78% of those students to enroll in their second year, I think it means like bright things for our future, but we're going to have to wait and see, and hopefully it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. We're going to jump around here a bit. Thanks for that, Kate. But we also have another question, another critical question from Robert around wrong answers from chatbot, which, yes, we know that's true. And that's why the hybrid approach is really important. I wonder, though, just quickly, if we could just talk about the way that when we say the One Goal chatbot, when we're talking about how it's built and the information that we feed it in order to give answers to students, it's a little different than when we're talking about ChatGPT, for example, this other service. So can you, Kate, just quickly describe the infrastructure? Because that might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Stephen. It's One Goal is using a tool called Mainstay. And Mainstay is a tool used with a lot of post-secondary access and success organization because it's purpose-built for supporting students in their first year after high school or on their college campus. A lot of post-secondary institutions use Mainstay as well. And so we get a chance to fully script the answers to all of the chatbot's answers. The AI helps bring in the information from the students, read it, understand it, and then recommend the right answers back. And it can give a much more friendly approach, and it makes sure that the students are getting the right nudges at the right times. But it is built on One Goal's expertise, which is why we really recommend it over just like a pure big LLM when you're just going to basically the internet and asking the internet questions. You're gonna get some answers back that feel a little bit wrong sometimes, or AI have hallucinations. And so I really would recommend to folks on the call thinking about what should I use. Purpose-built technology for this kind of for advising would be a strong recommendation for me.
Great, really great questions. And thank you, Kate, for the clarification there. I want to get back to Patrice, this question around misconceptions around AI. So I guess from your experience, what's some of the big ones that educators have specifically around just using these tools and integrated into their advising practices?
Yeah, I think well, one that comes to mind that I think kind of shapes folks maybe skepticism or framing of AI tools is that there's this kind of hesitancy to bring that into our advising and bring that into our work with students because we see the ways that AI tools have been incorporated in ways that are maybe shortcutting the learning process, maybe kind of messaging to students that this is a way to cheat or to take shortcuts in the learning process. And I think, that definitely isn't fully untrue, right? That AI tools can be used to take those shortcuts. And so I definitely don't want to diminish those concerns, but I think it's also important to recognize that there's so much more, right, to the story. We know that students are already using AI tools, and it's possible, or maybe there's a good chance that if they're using it to kind of shortcut the learning process, that they might not fully have the skill set or insight into the ways that these tools can be used to extend their critical thinking and can actually go a lot further in those ways. And so in some ways, when we're modeling for students how to responsibly and critically engage with AI tools. We're helping them to build those skill sets. There's so many ways that students can also use AI tools to, create study guides and to help them kind of fill in the gaps when they're reflecting on what they learned in class. And so I think, it's important to bring those examples of the ways that AI tools can kind of further that critical thinking, because I think on the other side, I also hear from, and this is not a misconception, but I think it kind of balances out this kind of hesitancy or anxiety around incorporating AI tools for students is that, here in the Bay Area, we're in a tech hub, right? And so we are seeing AI tools evolving all around us. We've got, self-driving cars and I don't know what else tomorrow. And so some of the educators that, we speak to here in the Bay are also feeling a sense of urgency, right? That we need to be able to equip our students to be ready for the future and learn how to use these AI tools responsibly. And this fear that if we don't do so, that the digital divide is going to continue to widen. And so I think there are ways to, model this responsible use of AI tools and demonstrate some of the really positive impact, which can be really impactful within advising.
Thanks, and great transition to Jesnaya. Thank you for coming off and on to camera. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to get some student perspective here. So if you could tell us a little bit about your post-secondary journey and your experience in your One Goal classroom, and then how you've used AI, either in your studies or in your planning, specifically tools like the One Goal chatbot. Love to hear a little bit about your perspective. Oh, you're on mute. Let's unmute. Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasnaya. I'm a student at Daly Community College, majoring in morticianary science. When I first heard about One Go AI chatbot, I was honestly skeptical. I heard about people talk about AI giving wrong answers or not understanding questions. But once it was activated for us after graduation, it helped me a lot. It guided me through orientation, registering for my first year classes, and even caught a big mistake. The chatbot pointed it out, gave me the right link, and it helped me fix everything. That honestly made my transition from high school to college a lot smoother. I would say I mainly use AI when I'm confused about a step or when I need help staying on track. The chatbot reminded me about FAFSA, class registrations, and other deadlines I usually forget about. It also checked in on me, asks me how I'm doing, and makes sure I'm not falling behind. And if it couldn't answer something, it doesn't leave you stuck. It connects you to a real One Goal advisor. and they help you also schedule a link to make an appointment. I wish educators understood that. Um, I wish educators understood that students aren't using AI to avoid doing the work. Most of us use it to understand things better, to get support when we're overwhelmed. AI isn't perfect, so you do have to be very specific when answering question and asking questions. Um, and it's a helpful tool that guides us and keeps us on track. I think educators should see AI as something that supports students, not replacing learning.
Thanks, Jasnaya. When we spoke before this, you shared an example of when you, and this is, I'm going to take you off script quickly, but when you were asking a question to the chatbot, and then it connected you with a One Goal staff person. Do you remember what that story was? Can you share that again? That was really cool.
For my advisor, for the one
Yeah,
code chatbot, yeah. So you can ask certain questions, and if it doesn't like, if it's not in its like inventory, like like
yeah. If it
in
didn't
its
know the
database to
answer,
answer it, yeah. It connects you to a real advisor. So I had a question about, believe maybe about FAFSA, maybe I want to say maybe about
yeah, it was
FAFSA,
FAFSA, right? Yeah.
FAFSA. And it was just a quick question that I needed, and it answered for me. And then if I needed more, it connected me to a real advisor, and it was quick and easy. And it answered my question for me.
Yep. And then you got to talk to a real person at One Goal, and they answered your question, I presume. It was about FAFSA, right?
Yes, about FAFSA. It helped me
Yeah.
with even scheduling an appointment to help me register for my next year.
Okay. That I love to hear. And actually, thank you so much because that's a good question. That's a good segue. Kate, is that what we mean when we say hybrid advising? Specifically on something like FAFSA, where the information is always changing. Whatever was true yesterday may not be true today. Um, what is would the way that the human was brought in on that? Is that kind of an example, or is am I off base?
No, I think it's a really strong example. And the other, there's both the can the human who has great knowledge and expertise provide that great knowledge and expertise in a very specific context. We all know like financially it gets tricky and very personal very fast. And so often a human and a robot can do a great job together figuring that out because the human might not have 100% of the information either. But also, we hear stories from our students where the other thing that they need is someone to tell them that they can do it, that they're going to get some more motivation, that I believe in you, right? And the relationships between our advisors and our students are really critical for that reason. And hearing a robot say "I believe in you," I just don't think hits very deeply, and it's not what we're hoping for. But having a real person be able to say like, "Great. I believe in you. You're going to be able to do this. Follow up with me in a little bit. If you haven't gotten this, I'll be there. I'm in your corner." That's really critical for One Goal, and so we keep that front and center while also making sure that if it's midnight and you've got a question, the chatbot's there to answer it, which is also really helpful. I think just now you can like I think students want both, right? They want someone to talk to, but also like why do you have to wait 4 days to talk to somebody when you can get an answer really fast?
Patrice, how are you seeing AI sort of complement but not replace that human relationship that's at the heart of really effective advising practices?
Yeah, I love all of these chatbot examples. I was also thinking about one from, the advisor perspective. So as Jasnaya mentioned, one of the big topics that we send text campaigns through the chatbot to students is around financial aid. And so during the summer, usually like midway to the summer, approaching the time when a student's first bill might be due if they're enrolling in college, we send out a campaign to students, a text, giving them a heads up, like, hey, your first bill is going to be due in a month. Do you have a plan for how to pay? And so it's a question, a couple of different options, multiple choice that a student can select to share kind of like their level of confidence that they'll be able to cover the cost of that first bill if they have one. And so the chatbot then, responds depending on what the student selects. So there was a student who last summer responded like, I'm unsure, right? And so the chatbot sent, some resources, and directed them also to schedule some time with their advisor. The student sent in a question around how do I increase my financial aid? The chatbot kind of shared some kind of automated responses. While the student was engaging with the chatbot, that conversation is also flagged for the advisor, right? So the advisor sees, okay, one of my students has a question, is having a challenge with their financial aid, and is feeling unsure about their balance. That advisor recognized that student. They're like, oh, this is a student that I've met with multiple times throughout the summer, and knew from the relationship that they've been building with this student that they kind of have a tendency to, if they're feeling overwhelmed or if they're feeling worried about a task, that they have a tendency to put it off, right? They're like,
Hmm.
I'm going to avoid, I'm not going to, take the next step, even if it gets later and later and later. And so that was kind of a sign, right, for the advisor to jump in very proactively and connect with the student. And so they were able to call the student, had an advising session, and had a really great conversation to help the student surface more of the like what was happening underneath the surface, not just them not being able to cover their balance, but some really real anxieties and worries around finances and talking to their parents and kind of going by themselves to the financial aid office. And so that was a really powerful conversation that the advisor was able to have because they were armed with this context from what they knew about the student and the relationship that they had built with them. And knowing that even if the student maybe does have this on paper, the next steps that they need to take in order to resolve the challenge, that they would actually benefit from some additional kind of higher touch, personalized coaching and conversation in order to make progress.
Um, Zoe asked a question, Patrice, in the chat about staff reactions and how we've been able to adopt some of these tools. You're giving an example of one of our One Goal program directors or advisors who, they were using the tool, and this information from the student was flagged through the tool for them. So I guess that's a positive example of when, this was really enhancing their work. But by and large, what is your sense of how One Goal program directors, how our staff advisors are, how this, this implementation has been going for them, or have there been frustrations? Has it just only served to enhance the work that they're already doing? What's kind of been your thumb on the pulse with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think so as Kate mentioned, the way that we rolled out the chatbot was through a pilot, right? So it was launched first in Texas. Then the next year it was rolled out in the Bay Area, and then the next year after that was rolled out across regions. And so I think that was a really that helped us to have already some insight into what the advisor kind of user experience was with the tool and what some of the great things and what some of the kinks that needed to be worked out. And so our One Goal has a digital advising team that does a really great job of staff training. It's a pretty robust, staff training that they do directly for advisors who are going to be using the tool that covers not just the technical pieces of how to, navigate the platform and pull reports and things like that, but also includes best practices for how advisors have been able to integrate that. And so I think that, from the advisors on my team, I think there was hesitancy around a tech tool, right? I think from all of us, we're just like, I don't know these tech, I'm not a tech expert at all. And so I think that was the biggest hesitancy was just the learning curve around the platform itself. Um, I have seen advisors, I mean, within the first couple of months of using the tool, get really excited about and proposing their own text campaigns, right? They're like, oh, this is something I want to push out to my students. Oh, can we make sure we pull a report here? And so I think I don't want to, gloss over and say that it's all perfect, but there is, I think, with slow onboarding and really intentional onboarding for advisors so that they can actually see how it's been in practice and have an opportunity to really build confidence using it, rather than kind of just thrown in to test it, I think has been really positive. I think advisors are really grateful to have a platform that's able to take care of, they're not having to sit down and text each student individually or send out this link to students repeatedly. And they're able to have insight into who is and isn't responding to the chatbot, because that's also really valuable information too. And so it also that kind of data helps them to prioritize their caseloads a little bit more. I think that the flip side of, I think both Jasnaya and Kate mentioned, the chatbot doesn't always get things right. And that can be frustrating, I think, for students and for advisors. And so we constantly are, giving feedback, right? It's a constant kind of feedback loop to improve the chatbot and improve the answers that they're giving, as well as ensuring that students know that this is still a tool that's in progress. And really the best tool to go to will be connecting with your advisor if you're not getting the right answers from the chatbot.
Yeah, I'd add on to that just a little bit. Stephen, earlier you asked us like what are some misconceptions? And I think a common misconception is that you have to start this with everyone all at once. Like if this is something that you're not familiar with, if you're in the not yet bucket, then let's try with 5 students. Let's try with 10 students. Like see how it goes. And then also, like just like we have Desnaya here with us, we really try to make sure we ask our students what they want. And so in our early Texas rollout, we sent a survey to students and we're like, how often would you like the chatbot to reach out to you? And we were surprised. We thought that we were going to be annoying or bugging or getting in the way for our students. And the great majority of our students were like, more, please. Please, I would like more messages. Remind me more often. Just I see you nodding. Is that something that you would agree with too? Yeah. And so we were like, oh, okay, all right, we're gonna send out some more. We're gonna lean in. And students said that it's helpful. It's something that they like getting the buzz in their pocket. They like getting the third reminder sometimes. That story about putting things off when you get anxious, deeply relatable. I do that too. And so like having someone able to just send you more messages has been useful, and it was surprising to our advisors. And so they're like, we've learned a lot as we've went on how these tools work best.
Hey, while I have you, I'm like putting myself in the shoes of the not yet folks. And I'm curious, from where you sit, you look at a lot of different tools. You've been really at the head of all the implementation work that we're doing. I'm wondering though, what are some like small, like low lift things that advisors and teachers can take if they want to start using AI in their work? And what should they be cautious of? What's comes to mind for you?
Yeah. So my best advice is for adults is to first start using it yourself, right? Like to tell students to start using, number one, sorry, students are already using the tools. They're using it. And so like we need to catch up. We need to get on the level of our students. And so we need to start using those tools. When you are using a tool, when you are asking the AI to help you be a better advisor, you have the filter of all your experience that you as an advisor. And so you can, oh, that information was excellent. I would like to repeat that to a student. Or that information wasn't so good. I'm going to hold that back. I'm not going to repeat that. And so I would recommend like you start small by starting with yourself. I think you also start small by looking at the enterprise tools you already have at your district. And so similar to enterprise tools we have at One Goal, we've got Zoom. Zoom's got an AI feature. Like try it out, use it. There are often many baked in parts of AI that you could start to use for efficiencies. And so if you are having an advising session with a student and you would like a transcript to be recorded so that you can more easily refer back to what the student was saying, okay, there's probably a tool that you can use that's already approved by your district that will let you do that. I would be cautious with tools that you need to have where student information and student personally identifiable information needs to go into it, right? That usually requires a procurement process, that usually requires a data privacy agreement. We take data privacy so seriously here. I spend most of my life looking at those and making sure that the tools that we use at One Goal are very safe and secure. And so I wouldn't just rush headlong into uploading student information into various tools. I would try to look at what do you already have, what's approved, what could be a low lift, and how could you start to experiment with some of the tools that are easy to use and even some of the tools that One Goal are using.
Obviously, at One Goal, we have a team of folks that are doing implementation. We also have obviously like an IT group that's, troubleshooting. But I guess like if you could just kind of describe like what are the systems and structures quickly, Kate, and how we're resourcing this AI chatbot. Like what is in the back end? Like what's been the staffing look like to sort of build and maintain this?
Yeah, so Patrice gave a bit of a shout out to our digital advising team. I want to give them an additional shout out. They're led by our dear colleague Haisu, who has been fantastic at really thoughtful change management. And so I'd say there's a couple of, in terms of what does it take? What does it take to do this? I will give you an answer about what does it take to do this at a nonprofit, because I know that best. And I know that some folks are joining us here from organizations that are similar, but not exactly the same as a nonprofit. We've got at least one person who is excited to use and understand how the chatbot works. And that person who I've named Haisu, she doesn't have a tech background. She would say right away that this was a leap forward for her, but she has an advising background. She has a background working with students, and she has a curiosity and excitement to like, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. And she is also excellent at change management. And so I think we have that one person who is very dedicated to making sure this is going to roll out. And then one goal is a matrix organization. We've got advisors in every one of our actual locations where we have students who know the local context, who are going to do advising based on where you're at. Like Patrice, you're based out in the Bay Area. That's going to be slightly different advising than the folks in Texas, than the folks in New York. And so the human advisors, I think most people here can imagine what that looks like. But the staffing for the tech is where we want to go deeper. So I'll do one level deeper, which is we also support this with our IT team. And so our IT team is able to make sure that we are syncing our information that we gather via the chatbot to our database of student information. We use Salesforce. It's a really common tool with nonprofits. And so we support that. We support that sync. But typically it's really about a one-person job to make sure that the chatbot is working really well, supporting as many kids as OneGoal has right now.
Patrice, from your work in supporting the post-secondary transitions, so that really critical, between their last year of high school and their first year of whatever pathway that they choose, what are some practical ways that schools can start experimenting with AI tools safely and effectively to help with students out with that transition?
I think, well, Kate gave some really, I love Kate's advice around, if you're starting to learn about AI tools, start by, experimenting with them, right? Starting to kind of play around with them and engage with them yourself. There is also a great nonprofit called AI EDU that focuses on providing free education that's free AI education that's geared directly towards school administrators and educators who are interested in kind of just learning more about some ways to incorporate AI tools into the classroom and into school-based settings. And so I think they have a really robust website with tons of different, resources and trainings and, depending on what your level of entry is. I think regardless of what kind of next step you take, I think it's always important to keep in mind that you do not have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start from scratch. This is such a complex topic, and there are lots of folks who are really engaging deeply and doing the work of testing and implementing that you're getting to hear a little bit about how we've approached that. But I think that it's just important to remember that you have external resources to tap into, rely on partners who are implementing, because I think, we're all invested in our students' collective success, and the work doesn't have to be done, in silos or in isolation.
How can we prepare students to use these tools responsibly, not just for school, but lifelong learning and career growth? What is the role of the educator as you see it? Kate, what would you say?
I would say that we have to make it transparent how we are using AI, right? So one of the and model, like a lot of education is modeling how things are going to how you should approach work, how you should approach problem solving, how you should approach learning more about a topic. And so one of the things that we make sure to do at OneGoal is we don't pretend like a human is texting students. We very much tell students like, hey, the chatbot's going to remind you about some things. And so sometimes the students will talk back to the chat being like you like joking with the chatbot. They know it's a bot. They then text us #human. And so like to your to the question of like how would I recommend, I really do think we have to talk about the use of AI as an asset. And this is how I use it. This is how I see other people using it. This is how I see students who are like you taking advantage of it. And I think that those types of stories and storytelling can really bring it to life for people. I know something that I get frustrated with when I'm working in my industry is people be like, yeah, you just feed the AI. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you, when and how and where, what part of my computer am I clicking on to do that? And so I really do think as specific as we can get, like when we're trying to say like go to decided.org, use this tool, upload an award letter. This is what will happen when you get there. Talk about a tool called Mainstay. It will help you build a great chatbot. Go to this specific resource. I think when we give students specifics instead of generalities, and when we give ourselves some specifics instead of generalities, we learn better and we can engage more in these kinds of new tools.
Patrice, any other nuggets of wisdom you would share on the responsibility, how to help students use it responsibly?
Yeah, I mean, I think the modeling was exactly what I was thinking of. I think the only thing that I would add is to, talk to students about how they're already using AI tools, right? Engaging in dialogue about what are they learning from it? What concerns do they have? What's exciting to them about it? And then with that, you're able to kind of tailor and personalize how you want to model, how you want to learn alongside. I think that there's a lot that we all have to learn about AI tools, and sometimes it starts with also, first learning from our students.
Jasnaya, any final thoughts you'd have around just what you wish educators and advisors understood about how students are really using AI day to day?
Yeah, so like I said before, I do wish that educators understood that we aren't using AI to avoid schoolwork. It usually helps us understand things better, help us give us support when we're overwhelmed. AI isn't perfect, we grand over the rules over that. But I wish that educators could see as something that supports students, not something that would replace learning,
Hmm.
I would say.
So important. I think that's been the theme of today. Um, I just what we have 5 minutes left. So I wonder, Kate, if there's any just like final thoughts you have just in terms of like I'm sitting here, don't have a lot of experience with hybrid advising. We haven't really started this intentional process. You had mentioned some tools about how to get started with that. I'm just wondering, if there's any other like things that we've learned at One Goal that we could share that would be helpful.
Yeah. So I would say that at an organization that's the size of One Goal that serves schools across the country, even at our size, we are very careful when we think about building something ourselves or when we think about buying something that we know works and has been like validated on the market. And so if you are just getting into this, the stories of somebody, the thing's going to catch the news is somebody being like, I built an AI chatbot that blah blah blah, and it changed lives and it did all these things. That's very cool, but it's likely unachievable if you haven't even started using AI chatbots or any kind of AI in your day-to-day work. And so I would say go to peer organizations, come to an organization like One Goal, say what are good tools out there for you to use, and then purchase first. Purchase in a really pilot way. And so we've got some excellent, Sydney. So we've got some tools right away in the chat that we would recommend. We recommend DecideEd because hey, we are the ones who are running it. We recommend UScience. We recommend Scholar AI. We recommend AI EDU. We recommend a number of different, and you can reach out and we can give you more recommendations if you have very specific, I want this use case or that use case. But like, don't try to create it yourself. Go where folks have gone. It's a new world, but lots of people are exploring it, and so you're not alone in this. And that's really where I'd lead with, why don't you see, like, try a tool that's out there, try it small, and don't think that you have to do this completely on your own.
Really quickly, speaking about doing something on our own, One Goal Studio. I know that was an example of we haven't seen anyone that does it better yet. So we're going to keep plugging away at improving that tool. It's not necessarily AI, but it is like a tech platform. I guess like for you, when you're thinking about trying new things, what makes you decide we're going to stick with this one now, or we're going to move on and try something new?
Yeah, that's a great question. One Goal takes this approach where we try to identify where we think there are gaps in the market, where nobody's doing something quite like we want to do it. And so then we'll prototype it. We prototype, and we're constantly evaluating, is someone else building a tool that cares about quality enrollment the way that we care about quality enrollment? And so quality enrollment is One Goal's framework for, is this post-secondary institution, is this post-secondary pathway going to be a really good fit for you? And so One Goal has 20 years of expertise where we really feel confident that we know what the right combination of factors is. And so we build a tool like Studio with that automatic advice because we feel like our expertise is just really leading the way. I consistently evaluate tools on the market to see if they are able to support exactly the way we think about quality enrollment. And a couple are getting really close. I mean, honestly, I think that there's a good chance that we're going to be able to move to a tool that can support not only us, but many other organizations, many other schools, because this is a conversation that more and more folks are having. How do we support students best? How do we design technology that is going to make sure that it keeps human at the center with AI enablement? And so I think the field's really exploding, and that's exciting. And so, like, how do I know when to go, when to stop building our own tool, and when to start moving to another platform? I think I know when that tool puts students first and really values the fact that our students we want outcomes. We don't just want a tool for our student. As one of our friends in the chat was asking before, enrollment's great, but graduation is the goal. We want to make sure that students are getting all the way to the end. And so when these tools put that at the center, that's when I know it's time to start having like a really good conversation with them.
On that note, we're at time. Gosh, we could just keep this conversation going. Jasnaya, thank you so much. Patrice, Kate, you guys have been incredible. And thank you to our guests for joining us. Please stay in touch with us because we would love to have you join us for our next webinar. We're going to continue just driving this conversation as much as we can. So you can find us at onegoal.org, sign up for our newsletter, follow us on social media. We'd love to talk with you about partnering to see how you can bring One Goal's hybrid advising approach to your school or district. But with that all said, thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.